Welcome to PAR, the Electronic Personnel Action Request Workflow System for the Department of Children and Family Services. In this tutorial, we will introduce the ePAR system. This system will be used to electronically submit all position and personnel action requests. Actions that currently do not require an HR2, such as reallocations and permanent status changes, will now be processed through this system. This electronic system will eliminate the HR1 and HR2 paper forms. The processes that are currently in place will remain the same. The PAR system will allow you to create your action request, upload any required documents, and electronically submit the request to your appointing authority for approval, and then to your state office human resources representative. You will also be able to comment on each step of the process and view a graphical display of where the PAR has been, as well as who currently has control of the next action. Each individual assigned access to the ePAR system will have a designated role throughout the workflow process. Let's take a look at each role in detail. The personnel liaison is responsible for creating the PAR transmittal, uploading all required documents, and ensuring the accuracy of all PAR data prior to submitting the request to the appointing authority for approval. The appointing authority is the individual who has the authority to approve or deny all position and personnel actions for all employees within their assigned division. This individual will be able to review or deny all PAR requests and add comments prior to submitting the request to the State Office of Human Resources. The OHR router is the gatekeeper. This individual will route the PAR to the State Office HR analyst assigned to the specific region. The OHR staff is the State Office HR analyst assigned to the specific region. This individual will process the PAR for HCM tasks. They will review and affirm or reject the PAR prior to returning it to the personal liaison for further processing. The process begins with the personnel liaison creating the PAR. It then goes directly to the appointing authority for approval. If approved, it will then go to the OHR router, who routes it to the OHR staff. The OHR staff will notify the personal liaison when the conditional offer can be made. The personal liaison will then upload all required clearances to the PAR, and OHR staff will issue final approval. Once an effective date has been determined, the personal liaison will enter the effective date and OHR staff will complete the PAR. We will now log in as a personal liaison to begin the PAR process. You will log into the PAR workflow system using your Leo login ID and password. Upon logging in, you will be taken to the PAR home screen. Your PAR home screen will display PARs in various statuses. These statuses reflect where the PARs are in the workflow and which actions need to be taken. In this example, we will create a Dcfs HR1 PAR to fill a vacant job appointment position. To create a PAR, hover over My Queue on the menu bar and select Create PAR. In the Create PAR window, select Dcfs HR1 for the action type and enter a position number. Entering a position number will pull information from LeGov Leo about that position into the PAR. Click Begin to be routed to the Dcfs HR1 PAR. At the top of the form are two tabs, PAR Details and Comments. The PAR Details tab is where you will enter specific information relative to the position action being requested. Comments can be added on the Comments tab. The electronic HR1 and ePAR will be completed in the same manner as the paper form you are currently using. This process has not changed. A red asterisk next to a question indicates a required field, such as why is temporary appointment needed rather than permanent appointment, and how long is appointment needed for, in Part 4 of the HR1. This question must be answered before submitting the form to the appointing authority. Failure to complete required fields will result in an error message at the top of the screen. The Attachments section of the HR1 enables you to add any required documents. To attach a document, such as the DPRL, click the Browse button next to the document description to navigate to the document on your computer. At the bottom of the HR1 PAR, you have two options, Save and Save and Send. You can save your work at any point during the creation of the HR1 PAR by clicking the Save button. Upon selecting Save, you will be returned to your home page. At the top of the page, you will see the message PAR Insert Successful. Your newly created Dcfs HR1 PAR is now in the Personnel Liaison in Progress section. Click on the PAR to open it for review and editing. To submit your PAR to begin the approval process, you must select Save and Send. If for some reason you'd like to cancel the PAR, select a cancel reason and choose the Cancel PAR button. In this example, we will save and send the PAR. Once submitted, you will be returned to your home screen where you will see the message PAR submitted to appointing authority successfully. It is important to note that OHR staff will not be able to change or make any corrections to your PAR after you submit it to the appointing authority for approval. Therefore, you must ensure that all information entered is accurate. If a PAR is submitted with incorrect information, it will not be approved by OHR staff and will be returned to the Personal Liaison for correction. Once corrected, it must be resubmitted through the entire approval process. We will now demonstrate how to create an action PAR. In this example, we will create a PAR to hire Mr. Robert Smith in a vacant Human Resources Analyst job appointment position. To start the PAR, hover over My Queue on the menu bar and select Create PAR. In the Create PAR window, choose Hiring for the action type and enter a position number. Enter a personnel number if applicable. Entering a position or personnel number will pull that information from LeGov Leo to populate the PAR. If you do not have a position or personnel number, that information may be entered manually. Click on Begin to be routed to the Dcfs HR2 PAR. At first glance, you will see 3 tabs. This is designed to resemble the paper HR2 form. The PAR Details tab is where you will enter specific information relative to the candidate and action requested. The Comments tab allows you to enter additional comments that are pertinent to the action. The Human Resources tab is where the Personnel Liaison will upload required attachments such as the application, coded referral list, references, etc. The first step is to select Yes or No for all pre-employment security screenings. Next, enter the name of the candidate and complete all other blank areas relative to this action, including all required justifications, references, etc. Do not enter a proposed effective date at this time. If you entered a personnel number when creating the PAR, the candidate's personal information will already be populated from LeGov Leo. In the Attachment section, you will be able to upload any additional documents relevant to this action, such as the HR3 Pay Upon Hire worksheet, the HR7 Voluntary Demotion Form, etc. To add an attachment, click the Browse button next to the document description to navigate to the document on your computer. At the bottom of the screen, you will see 2 options, Save and Save and Send. At any point during the creation of a PAR, you can save your work by clicking the Save button. Selecting Save will save the data you've already entered. Upon selecting Save, you will be returned to your home page. At the top of the page, you will see the message PAR Insert Successful. Your newly created PAR is now in the Personnel Liaison in Progress section. Click on the PAR to open it for review and editing. To submit your PAR and begin the approval process, you must select Save and Send. Once submitted, you will be returned to your home screen where you will see the message PAR submitted to appointing authority successfully. It is important to note that the OHR staff will not be able to change or make any corrections to your PAR after you submit it to the appointing authority for approval. Therefore, you must ensure that all information entered is accurate. If a PAR is submitted with incorrect information, it will not be approved by OHR staff and will be returned to the Personal Liaison for correction. Once corrected, it must be resubmitted through the entire approval process again. After all corrections have been made and HR has reviewed, the PAR will be sent to the Personnel Liaison at least 2 more times in the workflow for conditional offer, final offer, and effective date. Emails will be sent to the personnel liaison and HR to inform that these actions need to be taken on the PAR. Once OHR staff has reviewed the PAR and determined that no additional corrections are needed, the PAR will be returned to the personnel liaison. The PAR will appear in the Approved by Appointing Authority, Authorized to Proceed with Conditional Offer of Employment status. Click on the PAR to open for viewing. Select the Human Resources tab. Here you will upload any documents necessary for the conditional offer of employment. To attach a document, such as the conditional offer form, click the Browse button in the column next to the document description to navigate to the document on your computer. Once all documents are uploaded, click the Save and Send to HR button to send it on to your HR analyst. After sending, you will be returned to your home screen where you will see the message PAR Update Successful near the top of the page. Once OHR staff has reviewed all clearances and determined that the PAR is ready to begin the final offer phase of the action, the PAR will be returned to the personnel liaison. The PAR will appear in the Authorized to Proceed with Final Offer of Employment Effective Date Needed status. Click on the PAR to open for viewing. The PAR Details tab is where you will enter a proposed effective date. Once you have entered your proposed effective date, scroll to the bottom of the screen and select Save and Send to HR. After sending, you will be returned to your home screen where you will see the message PAR Update Successful. The final stage of the workflow, completing the PAR, will be performed by the OHR staff, which will be demonstrated later in this tutorial. We will now log in as an appointing authority. You will log into the PAR workflow system using your Leo login ID and password. Upon logging in, you will be taken to the PAR home screen. The appointing authority will see all PARs waiting on approval and the Waiting Appointing Authority Approval status. Click on a PAR to open for viewing. The PAR will open to the PAR Details tab. The appointing authority will view all the details of the PAR entered thus far. They may view and add comments on the Comments tab, view the audit trail, view the graphical display of the location of the PAR in the workflow process, and view uploaded documents on the Human Resources tab. After reviewing the PAR, the appointing authority has the option of approving or rejecting the PAR. If approved, the PAR will move on to the OHR router for routing to the appropriate HR analyst. If rejected, the PAR will be returned to the personal liaison for correction. For this example, the appointing authority will approve the PAR. After approving the PAR, the appointing authority will be returned to the home screen where the message PAR Approved Successfully will be displayed. We will now log in as an OHR router. You will log into the PAR workflow system using your Leo login ID and password. Upon logging in, you will be taken to the PAR home screen. The OHR router's role is to assign PARs to the OHR staff for further processing. PARs waiting to be assigned will be located in the PAR homepage. These PARs will reflect various statuses such as Approved by Appointing Authority, Effective Date Confirmed, etc. To assign a PAR, click on the PAR. The PAR will open to the PAR Details tab. View the HR region that corresponds to the PAR. Click on Assign to assign the PAR to an HR analyst for that region. If the PAR is critical, click the Yes radio button. The OHR router may also add a comment on the Comments tab, view the audit trail, view a graphical display of the workflow process, and view attachments on the Human Resources tab. The Route PAR to Analyst button appears near the bottom of every tab screen. Click to send the PAR to the selected analyst in the workflow. After sending the PAR, you will return to your home screen where you will see the message PAR assigned to HR Analyst. We will now log in as an HR Analyst. You will log into the PAR workflow system using your Leo login ID and password. Upon logging in, you will be taken to the PAR home screen. PARs waiting to be processed in various statuses will be displayed. PARs located under the critical section require immediate attention. For this example, we will open a PAR in the Approved by Appointing Authority status. The PAR will open to the PAR Details tab. This tab contains specific data relative to the candidate and action requested. As an HR analyst, this is where you will review all data and documentation submitted for the action requested to ensure compliance with agency policies as well as civil service rules. Comments may be entered on the Comments tab. If corrections are needed, the HR analyst will enter a reason here, then reject the PAR by clicking Save and Send to Personnel Liaison, which will return the PAR to the Personnel Liaison. This action may be taken at any status. The audit trail displays the actions taken by the PAR with specific times and assignments. The graphical display shows the location of the PAR in the workflow. The Human Resources tab is where attachments and final clearances for both conditional and final offers may be viewed. If no corrections are needed, the OHR analyst will affirm that a conditional offer can be made and will click Save and Send for authorized to proceed with conditional offer of employment. Once the Personnel Liaison submits all clearances for review and final offer, it will be returned to the OHR analyst in the Approved by Appointing Authority Signed Conditional Offer Uploaded status. The OHR analyst will review the clearances and request an effective date by selecting Save and Send for effective date. Once an effective date is entered by the Personnel Liaison, the PAR will be returned to the OHR analyst in the Effective Date Confirmed status. The OHR analyst will complete the PAR by selecting the Complete PAR button. The Personnel Liaison and the OHR analyst will receive an email verifying that the action has been approved and completed. Once a PAR is completed, it will no longer appear on the PAR homepage of any role. It can be found under the Completed option of the process queue. Hover over Process Queue on the menu bar, then select Completed. Fill out the necessary information to search for the PAR. The OHR analyst will print the completed PAR to be processed in the HCM system and file in the employee's file. To print the PAR, select a PAR for viewing. At the top right of the screen is the printable PAR link. This printable PAR may be printed using the print dialog of the document viewer. This concludes our tutorial of the PAR workflow for the Department of Children and Family Services.